So we are recording. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You please unmute yourself. Looks like you are all muted. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Samjivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Tapta Kansane Gorangi Radhe Vindajeshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So, third chapter, pretty much at the end of the third chapter. You want to share what you've been studying with Chandra last time, a little bit? What did you cover?
I'm a little mixed up. I left my laptop over at Sorel's mom's house last night, so I don't have my notes.
Oh, okay.
I won't be able to answer that.
So then Sorel will answer then.
Okay. Hold on. I'm pulling up, hold on. A little, just to re-spark my memory of what we talked about last
Yeah,
week.
sure.
Sorry. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about, we started getting into sacrifices a little bit, so yagnas, and then we also talked about the different type, like our duty to Krishna and like what it's referring to. And let's see. Different types of work, like how we shouldn't give up, we shouldn't like just run off and be, hermits, and instead Krishna is asking us to just keep doing what we're doing, but doing it in service to him. So
yes.
And let's see what else.
There's some noise in the background somewhere. I don't know. I guess one of you, some noise. I guess it's kind of gone now. Okay, good. Sorry, Sorel. Huh?
That's okay.
Okay, anyone else? Vignesh, would you like to add up a little bit?
I think we ended last time at the point of discussion of what can repression accomplish.
Yeah,
so that we need to follow our prescribed duties and not just run away prematurely from the prescribed duties. So that is as per our nature that we should follow. we're discussing on that part, and we ended on that part last time.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, basically, this is the, I would say, eternal dichotomy in this Gita. That's the main thrust of the Gita, basically. Should we stop working, or should we carry on working in devotion? I would say that's the gist of the Gita. That's the main hinge, like a door is hinged. So in the same way, Gita is hinged on this tattva. Should we stop working altogether, which was basically the predicament of Arjuna, as well as many so-called spiritualists, or meant to be spiritualists. They have this preconceived idea. Or should we just carry on working, but on the transcendental plane as far as possible, obviously, or in devotion? And we know that 333 is echoing 3.5. Remember 3.5? Everyone is bound to act according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes. We cannot keep away. It's better to be situated in one's position, just like Brahma is saying, Shrutigatam tanuvan manubir, ye prayasam udapasya namantaeva, jivanti yan mukaritam bhavadiya sartam. Stanestita Shrutigatam tanuvan manubir, ye prayasa jitachito, pyasitres trilokyam. Stanestita, we should remain in our position. This is the greatness of Krishna consciousness. You remain in your position, but you have to lend an ear to Krishna Katha, whether it's spoken by Krishna or by devotees of Krishna. And then from that position, you can even conquer Ajit. Ajit is Krishna, is unconquerable, but you can become Jit, conquerable, if you absorb yourself, engross yourself in Krishna Katha. That's what we're doing here in this Bhakti Shastri, So under superior training, let's try to attain to Krishna consciousness. There's no use. What's wrong with artificially giving up duties? What's wrong with that?
To artificially give up your duty is like you're not actually replacing it. You're not actually giving it up. You're more of just like it's still there. It's still here. Yeah. Go ahead, Jakob. Explain it better.
Definitely. Yeah, that was basically, you were not born, I know. I was a kid myself in the 60s. And the hippie movement, that's based on this artificial enunciation. Why was it a failure? I remember, first the beatniks in the 50s, then 65, 66. Basically, it's was born in the cradle of the hippie movement. Let's put it this way. And why was it a failure? Even though it was paved with good intentions, and it's paved with good intentions. Mm-hmm. Rejecting anti-establishment, rejecting materialisms, rampant materialism coming from their parents and grandparents after the war. They toiled very hard to reconstruct America. So the youngsters didn't want to end up into this conformisms, They rejected, but unfortunately, it was a dead end. Why?
Just as Krishna says in the Gita, we're required to act. So even if we give up actions artificially, we still have to act in some way for our maintenance.
Yeah.
And so we're bound to action in this life. And so even you might make a show of like the hippies of renouncing certain things. You're still going. It's kind of, it's like one of those clowns that you punch and bounces back up. Like you're still going to be required to,
yes,
to act in some way.
And because they didn't have the know-how to become transcendentalists, even though they wanted to, but they ended up worse than when they started off. Basically, hippie movement means see sex and rock and roll and drugs. And when George Harrison came in San Francisco in 1967, He was crying. He was bitterly crying. George Harrison, the Beatles, because he found himself guilty. He said, I'm one of the architects of this movement.
Mm.
And he could see junkies, heroin addicts lying, sprawling on the sidewalk. It was a miserable fiasco. And George Harrison was crying. He said, it was a pity, it's a failure, it's a complete failure. That's why he himself was very keen, 67 and onwards, he turned full on towards Srila Prabhupada, Krishna consciousness, you know, because he understood, I didn't know how to, I didn't have the remedy. So he turned to Srila Prabhupada and he became quite Krishna conscious over the years. So that's the main issue here. Under superior training, no need to artificially giving up duties. And 34, remember 34, we can start off from 34, 35. Better to stick to one's duty. Well, actually, no, it's 35. 34 means basically you stick to your natural position. Natural position doesn't mean at the same time you become prone to getting caught up in aversion and attachment, raga and dvesha. Why is that? In the name of practicing spiritual life, you get caught up in the raga and dvesha, the attachment and aversion. What's the danger with that? According to 34. I'm going a little back because I guess you covered that, but it doesn't matter so much. What is the essence of 34?
Just explains that by being attached to the objects of the senses, you are, this 34 calls them stumbling blocks of self-realization.
Yeah. So in other words, we cannot just depend on the rules themselves. It's called niyamagraha. We'll discuss that in Upadeshamrit. You become, I'm so much keen on following the rules. It's a bit of a smarter mentality, if you ask me. I'm very keen, but I'm so keen and so finicky that I forget the goal to be attained, which is pure love of God. So you may get caught up. At the same time, let's not fall into the other extreme. I know the goal, Prabhu. I know Krishna's love. And I'm a little lax in following. Also, that's the other niyamagraha. But again, even the analogy is quite superb. Even on the royal road, a straight road, you may still have an accident. You know, so you cannot fully entirely depend on rules and regulations. It's called vidhi and nishad. Vidhi means pros, nishad means prohibitions, cons. No, even regulated sense enjoyment can also be risky. And that is why the main thrust should be, let me become myself attached to Krishna. And if you become yourself attached to Krishna, even though while treading towards Krishna, you may have a little fall down, like apichetudara, but of course, if it is not premeditated, then Krishna will forgive you because apichetudara bhajate ananyabhag, sadureva samantavya, samyak vavasito isaha, 930. You remain fixed up on the goal on Krishna. You want ananyabhag. Your intent is still unmixed, is still pure. You know, so by all means, we should never try to be detached from Krishna consciousness and in any stage of life, rather than sticking to the rules for the sake of the rules. That's another trap. Basically, that's 34. Okay, did you cover 35 or with Chandra? Anyway, let's do it again. It's not a big deal. Let's read out 35 then.
Sanskrit and English, or just
no? Go into the English. Yeah.
Okay. Translation: It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than in others' duties. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
Yes, so this verse is so important that it is repeated verbatim by Lord Krishna, where you can rest assured when Krishna repeats himself, it's extremely important. It happens in the Gita with different verses. They are repeated practically verbatim. 1847, same verse, practically the same verse. So that was one of my questions, by the way. Let's see. Yeah, what's wrong with taking up the task of someone else's if you can do better? At first sight, it sounds good. At first sight. What's wrong with that?
One are to act according to his nature.
Yes. What else can
right.
you say?
To act and take somebody else, you know, you may have the tendency being a Kshatriya or a Brahmana, then you're doing the work of a Kshatriya, then it doesn't work like that, you know. Then you're just transgressing your nature. You're not.
Yes. And this is very pertinent, especially in ISKCON world. Let's say you live in a temple, the president, you know, like Numayapur is a good example. It's a couple, president is a couple. They're very young, you know, like early 30s. And most of us, we are old timers, you know. So we could easily find fault. You know, they could be our children, basically. We could easily find fault. And because we have many years more of experience, we could easily, well, I can do much better. But that's a trick. First of all, they stepped out to do it. They're not even French themselves. They're just imported devotees. I mean, the lady is French, but he himself is from South India. You know? So first of all, we have to be extremely grateful. It should behoove us to run at least the ISKCON French temple. We don't even do it. They're doing it. So that's goes to their credit. On top of that, if you find faults, Krishna will not like it. So we should therefore discharge our prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness. That's basically when you receive a service, especially via the medium of your guru, it's as if Lord Krishna himself is telling you. Look at Radhanath Maharaj. He's such a big guru, but if you look at his early life, I don't know if you know about his early life in New Vrindavan. You know his early life?
No.
He joined in India, as you know. And then one way or the other, he moved back to New Vrindavan, you know, America. And he was like up in the hills taking care of the cows. I mean, he would see practically anyone during the day. He said, the only person I saw were cows. He said he didn't see women for years in a row, only cows. So, you know, it's like totally unknown. No one knows what he's doing. It's like totally rank and file devotee for years, taking care of the cows. Not even in the local temple, the core temple of New Vrindavan, like the detached, remote foothold somewhere in the hills. But see, he took it to heart. Krishna gave me that service. He wanted to be he joined in India. He was for years in India, way before he joined it. So obviously his heart was in India. Krishna Prabhupada, one way or the other, the authorities in those days put him there. He took it as Lord Krishna's grace. And then later down the road, we have seen what he became. History tells us. So we should not change our occupations, but we should change our. What should we change? There's one thing we should change. What is it?
Consciousness.
Yes, exactly. It's not by Narad Muni is telling in Bhagavatam, it's just like you put one weight on this shoulder, I'm gonna shift my weight here.
Mhm.
You know, you can keep on changing the weight. Oh, I'm going to change my of continent. I'll be doing much better. No, just like you shifting the weight to here. The weight is still there, left or right. So the only way out is to change the consciousness, actually. There's no question. Why? Because again and again, 333, 35, we are bound to act according to qualities we have acquired from the modes. Even the demigods, Muyanti Yatsurayaha. But Vyasadeva is saying, Muyanti Yatsurayaha. Even they themselves are under the modes. What to speak of a little human being? That is why there's no way out. We have to stick. As long as we are conditioned, we have to stick to Varnashram Dharma duties for the sake of pleasing Krishna, obviously. Devi Varnashram. What is that verse? Hari Samsiddhi Hari Toshanam. Damasya Shandustatasya. What is that verse? Atapumbi Vijashreshta. Vanashram Vibhagashaha. We should accomplish our duties within Vanashram for the sake of, if you don't try to please Krishna, then it's useless. Shramaiva hi kevalam. But the devotee, you know, you can see his journey. Sometimes he takes care of the cows, then he's going to run a temple, then he's going to be on Sankirtan, and then he's going to be a pujari. So he's doing a whole lot of different activities. Is he a Vaishya? Is he a Brahmin? Is he a Kshatriya? No, he's trying to be a Vaishnava. So Vaishnava has many hats. He can be a few years in his life, he's going to be a temple president, then he's going to be a Sankirtan leader, Sankirtan book distributor, pujari, taking care of the cows, taking care of the Bhakta program, taking care of the garden. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, so then we're moving into this very interesting section, 36 onwards. My question was there, even though we are engrossed into hearing Krishna Katha, and we become very enthusiastic. Okay, I'm going to blow the world. I'm going to make it. I'm really on top of the world. I understood everything. Krishna Katha, I'm very well situated. I'm going to be strict today, from now on. But then, in French, you say, chasser le naturel, il revient au galop. It's a French saying. You kick out your natural svabhav, your tendency. You kick it out. Kick it out. It will come back galloping to you, like a horse. It's galloping, not trotting, galloping to you. It's like a string, like Jacob saying. Try to kick it out. No, I got the point. Finish. It's okay. Why is it so hard to follow our prescribed duties?
Because of our lust. We are lusty.
Exactly. So let's get into that section. It's a very interesting section, very powerful section. Arjunuvacha atakena prayutoyam papam chadati purushaha anichanapi varshnya baladivani yojitaha. Arjuna, is very sanguine question. What is it, Krishna? Tell me, what is it that forces us, against our will even, to act sinfully, even though we don't want to? What is it? Let's read those verses in one go because they are so pertinent. What does Lord Krishna say? You can read the Sanskrit here, it's quite important. Whoever reads should read the Sanskrit. 37.
Read the next one, text 37.
Yeah.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Eshaha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapamma Vidhyanam Iha Verinam. Translation: The Blessed Lord said, "It is lust only, Arjun, which is born of contact with material modes of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring, sinful enemy of this world."
Yeah. Someone else can read basically up to 41. I think 42, basically. We can read the whole thing. We'll get back in the details of it afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degree of lust. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by the eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied, which burns like fire.
Yes.
The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. 41. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of Bharata, in the very beginning curb the great symbol of sin lust by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization.
Last shlok.
Yes, till 41.
I mean, before last, sorry.
Yeah, I'm done with till 41.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, there's 2 left, so we might as well finish them off.
Okay. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust.
Yes. So why is it so hard to follow our prescribed duty, even though we may be resolute in purpose, resolute in our determination? We may even take sankalpa vows. But again, we are being nagged by our lower nature. And the most formidable enemy is
Lust.
what is kam. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhavaha, mahashana mahapapma, vidyadahi yahavirina. Krishna is very emphatic. There's not 2 or 3 formidable enemies. There's one. Extremely formidable. Any big man, Julius Caesar, big demigods, just by the twinkle of the eyebrows of Cleopatra, Julius Caesar was on his knee. This is the power of a woman. So we cannot diminish, belittle this person. Come. This is, so let's discuss about that, because unfortunately, one of the main criteria of advancement, Prabhupada said that there's 2 considerations of criteria of someone advanced in Krishna consciousness. Number 1, this is what we're talking about. If we are detached from sex life, it is undeniably, perhaps I pronounce, but I don't pronounce properly. It's undeniable that it is definitely a symptom of advancement. Someone who detached from sex life, whoever he may be. Number 2, we'll discuss Sinupadeshamrit. To be devoid, apeshunyam, to be devoid of the propensity to criticize others. That's a very great criterion of advancement. But here we're talking about the first one, to be freed from sex life. So we can, we can jump to those questions I put forward. Doesn't matter the questions, we can take them into disorder. In 39, while one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. It's very well put. Because people will argue on this one. Well, no, I'm happy. I'm so happy to have, I found this girl, I found this man. I'm very happy. On the contrary, I'm more at ease to do other things because I'm satisfied. You know, I'm totally peaceful. I'm in love. So on the contrary, I can, with full concentration and peaceful, I can do things in a detached manner. I'm totally well situated, actually. I think you're wrong in your ascertaining that's calm or lust, whatever you call it. It's not lust, by the way, it's love. You know, why do you want to trample on love? What's wrong with you? You have to be able to dismantle that. People, this is the most formidable enemy. So you have to be able to, Prabhupada said, we have to discuss about this topic from all angles of vision. Otherwise, if you're not convinced, again, it will come itself of its own accord. So what would you say? What would you say to someone, you know, who is in love? So many youngsters, even old people sometimes still fall in love. First of all, are we against love? We have to ascertain all these points. How would you tackle the point? We don't want to be black and white also. So it's a very interesting topic. This is the main topic of the conditioned souls. Metunyagara. Metunyagara means the shackles of sex life. How to go around this topic? What would you say? Someone who disagrees with this sentence we just read in 39. Why do you say this so-called feeling of love? Why do you want to spit on it? Like Yamunacharya is spitting when it sounds heavy for non-devotees. When I think of a woman, sex with a woman, I spit at the thought. It's heavy. You guys are totally backwards. Why is it you're saying it's the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer? Prabhupada acknowledges, yes, there's some fleeting pleasure, happiness. We have to be able to tackle this point properly in a Krishna conscious manner. So let's start. We can do it together, you know. Literally, every one of us will speak. Who would like to start?
I'll go ahead and start. I think the first thing to understand is that there are different meanings of the word love in Sanskrit. And the love that's shown between the soul and God is prem, and that's altogether different from kama.
Yeah.
It's important distinction.
Very good start, Jacob. There's a verse in CC, Atmendriya Pritivansha. I'm forgetting the verse, perhaps Vignesh knows. As soon as you want to satisfy your senses, Atmendriya Pritivansha, my senses, then it's compared to iron. Krishnendriya Priti Icha. You want to satisfy the senses of Krishna, then it's prem, then it's gold. But at the same time, it's a very, very refined discussion. One time, I don't know if you know him, his name is Vishwambar. He's the first disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj in Europe. He lives in UK now. I believe so. And he got married long back. He told me the story. So their guru married them, Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And after some time, he asked his disciple, Vishwambar, do you love your wife? So he goes, yeah, it's okay. So then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, again, but you love your wife or not? And he goes, yeah, Kind of. So Krishna Maharaj again, very emphatic. Do you love your wife or not? Well, yeah, a little bit, it's fine. So then Krishna Maharaj is getting heavy. Now, 4 times, 5 times. And the point he made is you have to love your wife. But when he said love, he meant love. She's your wife, she's your spirit soul. And he went on to explain, if you don't love her, then when, as we say in English, when things come to shove, how do you say? When push comes to shove, and there's a saying in English, when push comes to shove, when things get worse, when the boat is rocking, then if you don't love your wife, you will leave her. That was the point of Krishna Maharaj. So, but when he meant love, he didn't mean love like a karmi, like a non-devotee. It means you have to love this person. She has been trusted to you. She's a spirit soul. And of course, you have also to be attracted to her. If you don't, otherwise, why would you marry her in the first place? So this is the point. We are meant to be loved, and we are meant to love. But if we are steeped in Krishna consciousness, we don't become carried away. We may become carried away a little bit in the beginning, of course. Most of us, I mean, we went through that a little bit. But as we become fortified in this ashram, then we move on nicely. And if we want to stick to the same partner throughout the life, we need to love the other person. You know, we shouldn't be neophytes. Oh no, she's a woman. How can I love her? This is ridiculous. She's a spirit soul. So, yeah, she's a spirit soul, and I have to love her. I have to help her. She has to help me. This is love in Krishna consciousness. It doesn't mean because I love her, I'm going to exploit her. There's a difference. Because we have been born in this Judeo-Christian tradition that due to mixing of the gender from very early on at school and all, love intimately rings a bell that there is physical contact. There is maya, there is, flesh, and it's totally intricately part of that word, that noun, love. And Krishna says, what does he say, Krishna, in terms of regarding sex life? In the 7-8, I believe. Kamusmi. Lokakshaya, no, not this one. Dhamma viruddha. I'm sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you say, if I could beget Krishna conscious children, I would have 100. So this is the point. So Jacob started quite nicely. This is the thing. We have to, as soon as we want to put ourselves in the center, my pleasure. But we have to be kind. Even Jiva Goswami explained, he's quite extremely precise, Jiva Goswami. He says when you have loving glances towards your wife and vice versa, he says this part of Grihastha Ashram. Because you care for the person. You care for the person. And especially as a man, you've been entrusted this lady, so it's a big thing. She's going to give you Krishna conscious children. It's even bigger thing. It's not a joke. And if you move in this ashram properly, then you can rest assured that practically 3/4 of the journey is completed. This is the main ashram, actually. All the other ashrams are, the 3 other ashrams are Vairagi, Tapasvi. We're not supposed to be with ladies, but let's be honest. Practically everyone, whether in ISKCON or outside of ISKCON, is getting married. Let's face it. So we better learn how to move in this ashram. Otherwise, there's no hope. You cannot, well, it doesn't work, Prabhu. Let me become a grihast, let me become a brahmachari again, or a sannyas. Then we discussed so many times. It's going to be discomfiture. It's going to be a fiasco. We're going to fall down, even worse off than where we were before. So now let's discuss. Let's go back to the questions.
Prabhu, may I add a point and
yes, please.
Hear your reflections on it?
Yeah.
So Hridayananda Maharaj, he brings in this conversation, he brings up the fact that Krishna in the Gita explains that we need to be moderate in our activities in life, and he, in sleeping, eating, and leisure. But he also uses that to more broadly bring up the sex life topic, and he explains that our bodies have certain needs, and to repress those needs artificially can cause neuroticism and other problems. And so there is a basic human need at certain spiritual, or at certain levels of spiritual advancement to satisfy the lower urges, so to speak, just as you would need to eat if you were hungry.
Definitely. It's called Yukta Vairagya. I remember Gogovind Maharaj. I don't know if you were around in those days. He left in 96, long back. Have you met him? Have you heard of him?
I haven't.
Gogovind Maharaj. It's Maha advanced. I mean, most advanced devotee I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
Extremely advanced. Coming straight from the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. I remember it's like practically way beyond everything you can even conceive. It's coming straight from, it's like a companion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gogovind Maharaj. He used to say, it's Maya if you don't unite with your wife at least once a month. He used to say that. And of course it's coming from Indian descent, but it's, there's no contraception. But what is that verse? Griya Shunyam, Putrahinam Griyam Shunyam. What is the use of marrying if you don't have children? What is the use? I was married first time, 17 years with no children. Putrahinam Griyam Shunyam. It's a desert. It's a desert. Putrahinam Griyam Shunyam. Void. So you need children. And don't wait at the fag end of your life like me. And then you're part of the process. This is prescribed duty. Otherwise, what's the use of getting married? So you're right, Jacob. Definitely you're right. So let's move on into the question. Yes, who's speaking?
Golokananda.
Yeah.
It said that the lowest origin.
Sorry?
Oh, you're muted. Golokananda Priya.
Yeah, please start again.
Some people said that, oh, we get married because of companionship, So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is happened to my first wife. My first wife never wanted to have a child. She told me even before we got married. Actually, our guru married us, first of all. We have no choice. And then I thought, well, she's going to change her mind. She's a lady after all. But she never changed her mind. So she meant it. So a few years down the line, I wanted a child, and she understood. And that's why it was not such a bad disgrace to divorce, to remarry, to have a child. But on her part, even though she's a nun, basically, she's totally a nun. I mean it. She's really a nun. She had to remarry. Why? And exactly for this matter, Golokananda Priya, because she wanted a companion to lean on someone else's shoulder. It's part of human nature. And we divorced. She was perhaps 50 or so. Yeah. And of course, they don't live even together, but at least she had, she has a husband. So yes, I mean, there's no harm. Again, the main criteria in this topic is always the same, 334. Is it favorable to your Krishna consciousness? That's the first question. You have seen the Guru, you have seen Srila Prabhupada, you marry, you take sannyas. I mean, the prescribed duty varies enormously from one to the next. And even if we take extreme situations, we have seen, I don't want to mention names, sannyasis falling down and practically they send their danda in the mail back to Srila Prabhupada in the post. I'm finished, this is my danda. How did Prabhupada react? Very down to earth, very practical. What did he say? I don't want to mention the name, that devotee left the world already. He said, no, look at, and he just pointed out in the class, there's so many grihastas, just carry on. Carry on. I know it's eating your own vomit. We know that. But carry on. Don't stop. This is the thing. If we stick to sadhana bhakti, to uttam shlok, to uttam bhakti, as defined in Anyabilashita Shunyam Gyanakamana Vritam, then we are doing good. But that is why it's so important to really pick up the nice partner. We should not rush into hasty marriages. Oh, she's so beautiful, I like her, you know. Oh, he's such a nice devotee. Yes, let's go for it. No, we have to see the astrology. Prabhupada said astrology is quite pertinent for marriages amongst conditioned beings. We should make sure it matches. So let's move on. I mean, let's see what else we can say on this one. So we were discussing about 39, this so-called feeling of happiness. So what is this? There is an alchemical process here. That was my first realization when I joined ISKCON, I remember. Prema Pumatu Mahan, pure love of God. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunai, Shravanadi Shudachite, Kalaye Udoy. Love of God is already there. What is this alchemical process in contact with? There's something that transforms here. Prabhupada says in 39, did you notice? It's Prem. We have Prem in the heart. We have Prem in Sadhya Bhava. Even when you practice Vedi Bhakti, Krita Sadyet Sadhya Bhava, Vedi is going to transform into Bhav. But if you don't engage into Vedi Bhakti, then what's going to happen? That Prem which is in your heart, in contact with, look at 37, Rajot Guna Samudbhavaha. What's going to happen? It's going to transform into lust. Isn't it true? What is lust? Lust is perverted love of God. And because it becomes unfulfilled, it transforms into wrath. Then it becomes the all-devouring enemy. We have always to remind ourselves, lust is a perverted reflection of love of God. Nothing is separated from Krishna. You understand the transformation? Please tell me again about the transformation. How does it become altered? What is the analogy of 39?
Let's transform into anger.
Yes, but I'm not expecting that. Perhaps not 39. Let's see. 30. Let's see. What is it? What is it?
Isn't it talking about the fire? How lust is compared to a fire, because if you feed the fire even just a little bit, it makes it grow. And
no, we're going to come to that afterwards. I'm talking about this transformation. Is it in 39? Let's see.
The less in ignorance.
You know this when you mix tamarind or citric acid with milk,
it curdles.
it turns into dahi, into yogurt. So in the same way, this love of God, which is inherent to the heart of the Jiva, in contact with Rajot Guna Samudbhavaha, 37, it becomes lust. And it's going to burn you. Yan Vigyana Nashanam is going to destroy your Gyan and your Vigyan. Now, sometimes you may wonder, why is it this devotee was so advanced? So advanced. How could he have fallen down like this? Did you ask yourself this question? So advanced devotee. Such an advanced devotee. Practically, in your mind, you're thinking, is a pure devotee. And 5 years down the road, he left with a girl. So
we have practical example in ISKCON. We have so many spiritual masters who are so advanced, so dedicated to Prabhupada mission and everything.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling, the power of this love. Gyan Vigyan Nashanam, it will destroy Gyan and Vigyan. And it's written, the verse is there in 41. Gyan Vigyan Nashanam is going to destroy both. Your realization that you had before, you were a realized person, perhaps not on the level of Nirgun or Brahma Bhut, but getting there. And because you lower down your guard, lust will enter. It's like water. It will sting. And it will grow from inside, from within, like a cancer. Whether you be demigod, do you think lust is going to differentiate? Oh, he's a devotee. He's not a devotee. No. Why is it such a powerful strength, force? Because it is a love of Godhead which has been perverted, which has been altered. You cannot remove it. The only way out is to transform it again back to where it's meant to be. You understand? You cannot say, oh, I'm going to remove lust and then I'm going to become okay. No. Because that lust is love of God perverted. It is your legitimate belonging. It is the property of the soul. You understand? So there's no question of removing it by replacing it by something else. No, you have to engage it. What is the story of Hanuman? Tell me. How can you engage Kam? How can you engage lust?
He uses anger.
Yeah, anger actually.
Yeah, to destroy the mansion of Ravana.
Yeah.
In order to help.
Okay, that's more anger. You're right. How to engage Kam?
The gopi of Vrindavan, they use lust to love Krishna.
Of course, we say lust, but actually it's prem, gopi prem. But this is the thing we have to, and again, like I ask you in my series of questions, is there any instances in your life? I will share one after, but first I want to hear from you that you had to convert this lust, and you converted successfully back into Krishna consciousness, and it helped you to flourish because you knew how to convert it back. It's like Prabhupada gives the example here of the smoke, and you have seen in 38 what are the 3 degrees of lust? 38.
Dust covering a mirror, smoke covering a fire, and the embryo covering the womb.
So please explain those 3 degrees of lust, because one is it's pertaining to human beings. So what can we do? What is the trick to, Prabhupada is very explicit in 38. What is the trick as human being, I'm saying, as human being to rekindle the lust?
The trick is to fan the spark in that analogy. You know, the smoke is covering the fire, but the fire is still there. It just needs to grow.
Yeah, by proper usage of the smoke, Prabhupada said, you can, by careful handling of the smoke in the fire, fire can be made to blaze again. So this is, did it happen to you that you were moving towards lust, you were totally, engrossed or carried away, and you could see going for disaster, but that's what I'm saying at the end of the verse of the chapter 40, if intelligence which is higher than the senses can still discern, I'm heading for disaster, then you can rekindle that lust, that propensity to become victorious. It is the same propensity. Just like, what is Mahamaya? What is Mahamaya? Do you think it's a different Maya than Yoga Maya? What is it?
Yeah.
Actually, it is the same. It is the same. What is the beautiful example of Srila Prabhupada, the electricity example? The electrician can either use the electricity to cool things off like a fridge, or to turn the heat on. It's the same electricity. So when you want to enjoy separately from Krishna, Yogamaya becomes Mahamaya. It's not the fault of the Maya. It's you are Tatashta. So according to how you're going to position yourself among the three gunas, what is your intent at heart? That's the main thing. We are one of the doers. There's 5 doers. 1820, I believe, or 1815. There's 5 doers. The Jiva is Karta, is the actor, is the doer. So you cannot say I'm not responsible. No, you're responsible. So how do you position yourself in the modes? But have you, again, I'm going back to the point, did it ever happen to you that you were falling into Maya, you were carried away by lust, and you managed to rekindle it properly, redirect it properly? Did it happen to you?
Prabhu, sorry to change the subject. Do you mind if we just take like a 5-minute break?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe come back and answer that?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you to remind me. Hare Krishna.
Whoa,
Hare Krishna. Welcome back. So, yeah, the question was, did it ever happen to you that you felt you were going down, attracted by lust, attracted by the sense object, basically, but on time you managed to convert it back to Krishna consciousness? Did it ever happen to you? I mean, do you have any recollection of such an occurrence?
So I wouldn't necessarily consider it lust. I mean, in the sense that it wasn't calm, maybe like covered up calm, but some friends and I do like a weekly gathering that we started recently. It's we do kirtan and prasad.
Oh yeah, you told me in your homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we do this little gathering. It's all devotees. We like to engage the general public a little bit. Their audience is, they have like a wellness shop here in town, and their audience is more of like yoga, and like yoga asana. And anyway, so we kind of started this program to kind of engage the youth of the city a little bit more, and people who aren't, who might not set foot in the temple. Anyway, we, every week I have certain things that I contribute, and Sorel and I make the prasad, and we show up every week and have certain responsibilities. And there was a comment made a few weeks ago at one of our meetings, and immediately I felt a little taken back, because I felt like my contribution wasn't really recognized. And I let that go on for about a week or so. And then I started to realize that I was putting myself in the center too much. I was worried more about name and fame. I was worried more about being recognized rather than just engaging in my service. And yeah, I mean, it took a little bit for me to shake myself out of it, but really what shook me out of it was kirtan, and just realizing like how much joy it brings me, and that the frustration that I was feeling was so small in comparison to that joy, and how that's really like, you get that joy through service, and you don't get that joy from trying to be recognized, or to be the center of attention, or to be, whatever. Anyway, that's my story.
That's a good example, Prabhu.
Very nice.
Yes, Goloka?
Somebody else can say.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is not talk at all today.
I was just thinking.
Okay, Vignesh.
I was just thinking, like generally devotees may not have a very kind of external kind of problem, but most of the times it's very subtle for the devotees, especially. Like, for example, we know certain things that we may think, okay, the materialists don't know about. So we may get a little bit proud because of that. That is also kind of ego which can defeat the devotees internally at a very subtle level, which happens with, I think, most of the, especially the beginners, including me. So I think we need to take care of that, so that like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, we should be very much humble. But then normally we don't introspect when it comes to our own life. We normally tend to observe it like an observer observing someone else, but we don't actually introspect it when it comes to our own life. Like we also need to be humble. So at times may get proud because of that. I'm a bhakta, I'm a devotee. So I think that can come up. It's also, I believe, that kind of ego, which is some kind of a lust. I will not say technically a lust, but it's kind of desire to have some kind of fame and something which may impact at a very subtle level for the devotees.
Yeah, it's called subtle sex, actually. Sex like can be gross, can be subtle. So I'll tell you a story. 88, summer 88, we're doing the Riviera. I don't know if you know the Riviera down the south, let's say, from Marseille to Menton. Right? I don't know if you can picture the map of France in your mind, and the southern coast, southernmost shore of the Mediterranean Sea, from Marseille to Menton, all the way to Italy. Summer 88, young man, I'm 29, we are a bunch of young men, And Riviera is, I guess, like California. It's hot, not only weather-like, but it's also hot. All the girls are topless, whether on the beach or at home. They're walking topless. This is the norm. So just imagine brahmacharis in that mist. So I remember I used to, all the time, distribute books, but at least 4 or 5 times a day, go back and read those verses pertaining to lust. And our Sankirtan leader told us, you just roam around that coastline. It's like 100 or 200 kilometers. You do all the cities. And we were selling a lot of books. People are loaded with money. They're in an enjoying mood. And, they are fun, having a good time. The beach is there, playing ball and all these things, flirting and all. And we had to do our job. And I remember so many times I wouldn't do the beach because it's really too much, So I would do the flats, on the seashore you have a whole, what do you call it, a strip of of buildings along the seashore for 100 or 200 kilometers in a row. So I would do the shops and I would do the buildings one after the other, buzzing the ring, you know. And all the girls, please come in, top press. So can you imagine? And I would say, okay, I have to sell the books. So what I would say, I would put the books on the table. You know, just between her and me. At least I'm protected by the books. And I have to sell the books. And I was, times and times again, I just talk about books and the philosophy. And because very often it happens, the girls felt embarrassed and she would cover herself. She would go get up and get something. You know, so I found it very interesting because it was tough. I cannot say it was not easy. So many times even I would go back to the car and recharge, you know, by reading those verses. But I mean, we did sell a lot of books. Because if I had said, well, look, my dear Sankirtan leader, all the girls are topless. There's no way we can do it. And we were like 4, 5, 6 boys. I mean, we were like young men, you know, 25, 30. But we did it because I said, Krishna, please help me. And Krishna was helping us. And the girls themselves, they would, go back to their sanity and say, oh, okay. And then they would cover and then buy the books. So, you know, and I noticed, this is what I'm trying to say, we were able to, we could have fallen into Maya right there. Everything is there. The setting is there. But by Krishna's grace, you know, the books were there. The books are very, very powerful. I remember we were studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's like a long 13 books in a row, you know, it's that large. I put it on the table and it was like a protective shield, practically, like an armor. And at the end of the day, we sold a lot of books and day in, day out like this, summer 88. So this is the way we have to just rekindle that lust, you know, put it back on track. It's not easy. I have to admit, I don't know if I would do it again, to be honest. But, and I would take shelter of those verses many times a day. No. Okay. Let's move on. Is it clear? You stop me if it's... But again, Baladev Vidyabhushan is saying you cannot compromise with lust. Whether it's sam, bad, you know, you cannot, sam means to be equanimous, no, or to divide, bad means division, you know, try to compromise. No, danda means destroy. You take shelter of Krishna, and that very lust which was triggering you inside, you know, will be again put back into proper place. So let's go back to the questions. I want to make sure we kind of cover everything. Yes, what happened to our service attitude? Now we have this service attitude, but when it becomes in contact with the mode of passion, we fall into Maya. So what happened to this service attitude? That was one of my questions, actually. We have this service attitude, but in contact with, if we have this intent to move towards Maya, what's going to happen to this service attitude of ours, which is the nature of the soul? By nature, we are Jivera Swarupa Krishna Linchidas. Krishna Tatasha Shakti, Beda Abed Prakash. Beda Beda Prakash. So what happened to this service attitude?
Actually, when we're in contact with Maya, we do not think of Krishna's pleasure. We think how to, you know, have to impress others, have to impress ourselves, have to make ourselves happy. We put, like Jacob was telling, we want to be the center. We don't know the reason why we're doing what we're doing is meant for whom, you know, just to please Krishna. So when we're in Maya, that we develop this kind of consciousness, you know.
Yeah.
We just want, we just want to be honored. We just people to appreciate us. And then we want to be, the center of of everything, like if people doesn't, appreciate us, we just give up and we just get angry and we just start criticizing them. So that,
So
and we
yes,
we act by the mode of passion and ignorance.
Yeah. And it becomes transformed. We are into the philosophy of transformation. Don't forget, our philosophy is Parinamvada. It's a transformation. This service attitude becomes transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment. Why do you think people are so much vishayi, sense gratifiers? Where is it coming from? Because they don't know how to put it back in proper place. So this service attitude towards love, towards God, it's going to convert pervertedly into propensity for sense enjoyment. That is why by far better to be a materialist than a renunciate, because at least a materialist is active. It's just a matter of telling him, look, you have this propensity to enjoy, which is great, but enjoy it with Krishna. We're not telling you to renounce enjoyment, but enjoy in communion with Krishna, with the devotees. I remember you can have great grihastha life with your wife in Krishna consciousness. We used to go out, distributing books with my wife. We were very, very powerful. Extremely, we were dressed in dhoti and sari. And it was such a nice communion, I remember. We would sell 30 books. We had a trolley. We fill it up with 30 books. We sell the 30 books. Because people were very impressed. They say, wow, a couple? And it looks like they're getting along fine. So, and they are a couple themselves. So they're just like blown away. Say, wow, these people are brilliant. So this couple, which is quite fitting into today's society, this notion of couple, being a couple, can be a tremendous force in Krishna consciousness. Tremendous force. If you're well situated, people will be blown away positively. They say, yes, there's something special,
Mm-hmm.
And they will be touched. Mm-hmm. They will buy the books. They feel secure. They're like us, men and women. Yes, we can relate to that. We can relate.
Vaisheshika Maharaj, he's such a great example of this.
Yeah.
He's member of the Grihastha ashram and he's so saintly still, just expert devotee. And I've heard before actually that in times past, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that many gurus in Gaudiya Vaishnava history were Grihastha ashram, and it's recently that's changed. Is that true?
Yeah, of course. During the time of Mahaprabhu, all the devotees were Grihasthas, practically. The person who reinstated Sannyas ashram is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because what happened is, prior to him, the top level was Babaji. Babaji Vesh. Babaji Vesh means the garb of a Babaji, white. So what happened is, up to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he could not conceive himself of wearing white because white means immaculate, nirgun, pure devotee. So he understood, even myself, he understood I'm not fit for that. So let me reintroduce within the sannyas order, within Varnashram, at least it's safer. And for the sake of preaching, it's also needed. So he's the one within Gaudiya Vaishnavism, at least our line of Gaudiya, he's the one who reinstated this sannyas ashram, and he gave sannyas to quite a few individuals. And then Prabhupada carried on, and all the godbrothers of Prabhupada also followed suit.
Well, Prabhupada, I have a question. At that time, sannyas was necessary for preaching, but now it has changed. Is it not? people don't look whether you're a sannyasi or you're grihastha. Because at that particular time, Bhaktisiddhanta introduced sannyas, you said?
Yes, of
Is
course.
it,
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
is it still prevalent in India that people only respect people who wear orange and
Yeah, it's a fact. In India, I mean, even Mahaprabhu took sannyas for that purpose, to be more respected. Because
nowadays, I'm talking about now.
Yeah, now, even still today. In the West, people cannot make the difference, you know. You have sannyasi, they don't make a difference. I would say in the West, the best ashram to preach is Grihastha, again. Especially to cultivate people. But in India, sannyas is by far we know that it's the highest order. Varna and ashram combine. Let's move on. Sorry. Let me go back to the questions. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, so I want to discuss about, yes, I was quoting Asango Yayam Purusha. The soul is never contaminated, which is the meaning of that sutra. Then apparently, do we feel contaminated or not at times? How can we reconcile those two statements? The soul is never contaminated and our state of affair, ourselves in this world. So if the soul is not contaminated, what is contaminated then?
The consciousness of the living entity.
Very good. So remember, the consciousness is the symptom of the soul, but the soul per se is never contaminated. Just like you will see that in the Gita, 13th chapter, it's just like air. It doesn't mean because air transports the odor of filth that the air is contaminated. No, it's transporting the odor of roses, transporting the odor of sewage. The air is a transporter. So the soul lends its energy to the body. Body is dead, remember. It's animated by the soul, but in contact with matter, just like drop of water is pure unless and until it touches the ground, then becomes muddy, it mixes. So, nasato vidyate bhava, nabhava vidyate sataha, 216. The soul is sat, it doesn't change, it's fixed. Ever. But as soon as it touches matter, its birth basically, then there is the consciousness of the soul becomes polluted. So the whole idea is to purify the consciousness. That's why Krishna consciousness, the term comes from that. Is it clear? So now, what is the remedy that saves us from gliding down to passion and then to tamaguna? Prabhupada explained that. It's in the verse, let's see. What is the remedy? Because we are in the mode of passion, let's say. So mode of passion is going to turn into, is going to degrade us. And sooner or later, you have seen passion, once it is fulfilled, apparently, then you fall into the mode of ignorance. Isn't it? Did you notice once you fulfill passion, then ignorance? So what is the formula before it moves into the ignorance? There's a trick here. You can reverse it and help put that mode of goodness, of passion towards the mode of goodness by, Prabhupada said, by the prescribed method of living and acting. So in other words, same story, you use that energy, the sex drive actually. What is it? What is the sex drive? People are talking about the sex drive day and night. Again, what is it? This is perverted love of guidance. Full stop. So we have to explain that to the people. What you are glorifying, my dear sir, day and night, is just perverted love of God. You are kind of glorifying God indirectly, pervertedly. This propensity is extremely powerful, you're right. It's very attractive, you're right. But unfortunately, you're going to be victimized because you don't know how to use it. Just like you give a knife to a child, it's dangerous. Someone who knows, use the knife properly. So, and then if that propensity is rekindled towards the mode of goodness, then it's okay. This is the whole idea. Anything you want to share?
There's one sentence in 337, and I put it down because it just summarizes what you said. It says, if therefore lust is transformed into love for the Supreme, or transformed in Krishna consciousness, in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized.
Yeah, this is exactly what it is. But at the same time, we have to understand where we're at. We should not burn our wings in the process of, oh yes, I know how to convert. I understood what he said. Let me convert calm all the time. I can do it. No, be careful. There's certain instances, it's beyond you. It's beyond you. You have to know your level. And when we really fall down is when we are going beyond our purview. We're going beyond, and we cannot handle it. Situation is too tough. We cannot handle it. And then we fall down. So, and we know what it is like to fall down. Right? It's guiltiness is there, and you feel repentant, you feel guilty, you feel down. And again, we have to, get up and start again. And each time we come to the same conclusion. But, just like 5:22, remember that verse? Yehi samspajaja boka duka no yunaya evate ajantavante konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Buddha means he knows. He knows. As soon as I contact the object of the senses, it's got a beginning and an end, and it's going to bring distress. It's going to bring displeasure. I know it. I know it. But again, so because of Buddha means, okay, I know the end result. I'm not going to do it again. I'm sick and tired of that. Of course, it's easy to say. So not to fall into the trap, we should not get close to the sense object. And it varies from one to the next. One individual, one devotee can manage to get close and without getting burned, like Prabhupada. But how can we compare to Srila Prabhupada? Others have a very little scope of magnitude. They cannot get so close, they know. There's one devotee, in the Numerapo, who is always telling me, I cannot get close to a woman. I just melt immediately. So, I tell him, okay, so at least you are honest. And I told him you should get married. So he said, yes, I have to get married. So I told him, you have to find, you have to search and do the astrology. But he is very vulnerable. He cannot remain himself. He becomes totally overpowered, carried away. So he cannot handle the situation, but at least he's honest. And perhaps 5 years, 10 years, he will be a strong guy. He's going through a phase because he's going through that phase. So we should know exactly where we are. The Guru is there to tell us, be careful, this is beyond you, Madhavendra, it's beyond you. No, this is not for you. Just like I was doing the Riviera, it was tough. Krishna graced me, but it was tough. Some other devotee may say, well, no, it's not for me. Not for me, Prabhu, sorry. I just go back to Numerapo. So, it's like that. Now, let's go back a little bit. I was asking for examples of persons who swap their varnas. We have discussed prior beginning of the class, we have to stick to our duty, prescribed duty is much safer. But some devotees in the Shastras, in the books, Mahabharata, they don't do that. Shri Krishna was not so happy with that. Can you name a few? I think one of you quoted one person, I think it's Goloka, who is those persons, they're great souls, very famous, but they swap their varnas.
Vishwamitraman.
Yes.
He was a Kshatriya and then he wanted to become a Brahmana. You know, just to be on the same level of what is the other guru?
There is quite a few comes to mind. Dronacharya, Vishwamitra. See, Lord Krishna saying by dint of their austerities, they could do it, but it's not wanted. Krishna was not happy. Even Krishna was not so happy with Dronacharya. Parashuram.
What about Karna?
Karna is a different story. He lied. And Karna, he was born Kshatriya. I can imagine Suryadev, father. But for the sake of remaining incognito, he lied to his guru, which is Mahapapa. So that's why he was meant to be, of course. And then he got, because of that, he forgot the mantra at the appropriate time, and he got stuck. His cart, his chariot got stuck in the mud, and Krishna took the opportunity. He told Arjuna, please shoot your arrows, kill him, kill the guy. Okay, so we can see swapping, even in Shastra, swapping varnas is never good. Okay, let's
Prabhu, I have one question.
Yes, Dignesh?
Like Varna, what we talk about Varna is not birth-based. Like traditional Indian families, maybe people are born in a Brahmin family, but they do not become a Brahmin by their very nature. So in that case, they consider that they are more of a Kshatriya kind of, they have a Kshatriya nature, they have more of a business-minded nature. Then wouldn't that also, in a way, who suggests that they are swapping the nature, because maybe that is not suitable for them. That's why they are swapping the nature, because what they have received is something not favorable for them. So they want to swap and become a Kshatriya or become a Brahmana later on. So how we understand that they're actually swapping the nature artificially, or they're actually they are genuinely want to shift their nature because that is not suitable for them now?
Well, if we are keen on swapping our nature, the best turn of action is to become a devotee. Because once you've been around in ISKCON for a long, long time, you look at your career, look at your trajectory, you've been doing many things pertaining to all the varnas. I mean, myself, I've been a collector. I collected lots of money for this movement. Books and also painting, saving New Mayapur, saving this project, or funding this project. Now I'm more like a Brahmin, and then, so it's a mixed bag, but for the sake of, we're doing the needful. According to your age, according to your maturity, you're going to occupy the post of different positions, but it's for the sake of pushing this movement. So it's Vaishnavism. It's beyond Varnashram. We are doing our Svadharma. Again, Svadharma has two considerations, remember? Can someone explain the two considerations of Svadharma? It's mentioned in, yes. I think Sorel to touch nicely on this one in her answers. One Svadharma is what? The material aspect of Svadharma.
Oh my God, I don't even remember what I said. I'm trying to find my answer.
Okay. I think it was you. The Svadharma is Vanashram, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Vanashram is not part of Bhakti. It's not part of the 64 Angas. Now, let's say as a devotee, you occupy different posts. Then it becomes your, be careful now, it's no more Vanashram, it's Devi Vanashram, it's even more, it's Navanga Bhakti, Navida Bhakti, the 9 Angas of Bhakti, Shavadam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, I was a Pujari, I remember in Mayapur, I was a Pujari for years. And we do the needful. Our Guru tells us, okay, do this now. Go there. Get married. Okay, now I think you should take Vanaprastha. Prepare yourself for Vanaprastha. So we're going through we are wearing different hats. So someone, Vignesh, who is keen on changing his profile, tell him become a devotee, then he will have plenty of scope to do that, you know? And of course, with age, we become more inward, you know, like teaching is a good thing, you know, because you are endowed with maturity and reflections, and you've been through life quite a bit. But then at the end of the life, Nirjan Bhajan, even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, even we should relinquish this desire to teach even. Nirjan Bhajan means we are the last leg of our life. We should concentrate on with Krishna. We have to, the gap is getting narrow. We have to concentrate on Krishna now. Our inner life, Nirjan Bhajan, you know, chanting, serving, of course, chanting, you know, trying to strengthen our bond. Because these are the thoughts at the time of death. So we have to prepare. And that dawns upon us as we grow old, you know. But as we are younger, like you are, then do things for Krishna. Don't worry so much about where you stand, you know, because these are all basically temporary occupations. And what counts is
work now, samadhi later.
Yeah. And Bhav Grahi Janardhan is the name of Lord Krishna. It takes the Bhav. What is your Bhav when you distribute books? What is your Bhav when you teach? What is your Bhav when you cook for Krishna? What is your Bhav when you do pujari? What is your Bhav when you repair the car for the Sankirtan devotees? What is your Bhav, etc., etc. So I would say, Vignesh, tell those persons to become a devotee. They will have all types of, keep on changing profiles over the years, you know. Okay, so should we move into the fourth chapter? Do we have any more questions on this Kamaesha, Kudaesha? And of course, the question was there, what are the sitting places of the enemy?
Mine.
So well, answered 2 out of 3. Mind, intelligence, and she forgot senses, I think. So out of the 3, which is the easiest to control? It's there in the book. Have you read the purport or not?
Yes.
The material senses. The senses are easier. Control the mind we'll discuss in the 5th chapter or 6th chapter. It's harder than to control the wind. The senses is easier. That is why, again, we discussed long back in the 2nd chapter, Jajatu Vishayam Pumsam, we should not, again, if we are weak with our senses, we should avoid those outlets, those areas that are going to trigger off, again, reawaken our senses. We have to avoid those areas, especially on the internet. You don't want to click on the wrong button. We always have the choice. You want to say something, Sorel?
No, sorry, my grandma just walked in, so I was just talking with her really quick.
Convey my obeisances to her. Okay, so anything else? I mean, it's a very important section. I mean, we have 5 minutes left. I feel bad if I enter the 4th chapter now. What do you think? You want to go in a little bit into 4th chapter? It's up to you. Unless you want to discuss further on this Kama section. What do you say, Chakra?
Is there anything else to discuss on the comment section? Anything else pertinent?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think I covered all the questions I had put forward to you. I had even asked you, I know, questions on the 4th chapter. Okay, perhaps we can at least let's try to get it clear. What is the link between the 3rd and the 4th chapter? So at least when we start next time you start with Chandra, you get it clear. What is the link?
I wasn't sure if the link was, because I read over a little bit of chapter 4, but I didn't get that deep into it, so I'm not sure. But I wasn't sure if the link was, so chapter 3 is talking about knowing, like Krishna also recommends that Arjuna should fight in full knowledge of him, in full knowledge of Krishna. And then chapter 4, I'm pretty sure, based off what I read, that it goes into the spiritual knowledge of the soul of God and of their relationship. And so it's like knowing the different aspects of God, of Krishna.
Yeah, very good. And I was even touching on this question. We discussed about knowledge already, because remember the 4th chapter, what is it called?
Transcendental
Sanskrit?
knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge in Sanskrit is called Gyan Vibhag Yog. So the Yog, Vibhag means division. The Yog of the connection, Yog means to connect, right? To connect something with something else. To connect the Jiv with Paramatma, with Krishna, through Gyan. Jnana Mishra, Jnana Karma, Sannyas Yoga is called also. The knowledge that will help you to stop karma sannyas. The knowledge that will help you to karma sannyas means basically renunciation of action. But again, we have understood that the whole purpose of the Gita is not to stop acting, is to carry on working, but not to be attached to the fruits. So this knowledge, what is the link with the 3rd chapter? We just discussed that lust covers and destroys Gyan. Gyan means knowledge. Such a powerful enemy. So now we're going to discuss performance of karma yoga, free from lust. We have to get free from lust. Therefore results in Gyan, in transcendental Gyan, Divya Gyan, Hriday Prakashito. This is the idea. Performance of karma yoga, free from lust. We should get as far as possible. It's not easy. Free from lust. Then that karma yoga of ours will result in Divya Gyan. And now Krishna is going to explain not about Atma Gyan, like we discussed, Najayate, Namriyate, Vakadachin, we're not the body. No. This is the first time Lord Krishna is going to reveal in details transcendental knowledge about himself. Why does he come? Who is he? How the knowledge is received. And we know, we will see in the 4th chapter that this transcendental knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism. There's nothing higher than transcendental knowledge. The mature fruit of all mysticism is going to get us to attain love of God at the end of the life. So that is why Lord Krishna is very keen on putting a big layer of Divya Gyan, transcendental Gyan in 4th chapter, to make sure that we can leave our lust behind and getting closer to Krishna. Who is Krishna? It's no more Atma Gyan like the 2nd chapter. Who is Krishna? Who is this person? So it's getting more intimate in terms of knowledge. Hare Krishna, I'll stop here. It's 6 o'clock here in France. Do you have any questions?
No.
No questions here. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Such
You're welcome. Don't forget, we're going to cut the Gita in 3 parts. So feel free to already submit, turn in your essays. I think, did you in that group? I forgot. I think none of you did turn in. Huh? So, because remember, you're going to have a closed book exam at the end of the 6th chapter, and you're entitled to turn in 2 essays per section. Huh? So it's going to be 3 by 2, 6 essays, 2 essays per section of 6 chapters, plus 1 closed book, plus the shlokas. You are supposed to, you can call me anytime you want and recite your shlokas. The shlokas are in the book somewhere. Don't run behind, because after, you know, you have to catch up. I'm running 1 session behind, you know, please. But we just move on, you know. So I'm just telling you as a reminder. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All the
Hare
best
Krishna.
and all
Thank
the
you.
best for your life and your activities. I wish you all
Thank
the
you
best.
very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So if you have anything to, you know, if you need to contact me, feel free to contact me. I'm always there on WhatsApp. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.